Hey there! In this tutorial, we will create a responsive fitness website using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Let me show you exactly what we will create. As you can see, I have already created a project folder that contains an index.html file and a folder named Assets. Inside the Assets folder, there is a CSS folder with a style.css file, an img folder containing the images we will use in this project, and a JS folder that holds a main.js file. Now open the index.html file. First, we will link our CSS file. Inside the href attribute, we will add the file path. Next, we will add a favicon, and inside the href attribute, we will specify the icon's path. Then, we will add an icon library. Open a browser, search for Remix icon. Now click on the GitHub icon. Scroll down and copy the CDN link. And paste it here. After that, we will link our JavaScript file. Now let's create the nav bar. For that, create a header tag with the class header. Inside the header, add a nav tag with the class nav. Also, give it the class container to reduce the nav bar's width and center it. We will use this class across all sections of the website. Inside the nav, we will add 3 child elements. The first will contain the logo, the second will hold the links, and the third will include a toggle icon, visible only on small screens. Let me show you. This one. Now, let's go ahead and add the logo. For the logo, create an anchor tag with the class main logo. Inside the main logo, we will first insert the logo image. Create an img tag with the class main logo image. Inside the source attribute, we will add our image path. And then add the logo text. Next, create a div tag with the class nav menu. Inside the nav menu, we will add the links and a close button, which will be visible only on small screens. Let me show you this one. Now let's add the links. First, create an unordered list with the class nav list. Inside the nav list, add a li tag with the class nav item. Inside the nav item, we will add the actual link. For the link, create an anchor tag with the class nav link. Now copy the nav item and paste it 4 times. Next, let's add text to each nav link. First will be home. Second will be choose us. Third will be program. Fourth will be pricing. And fifth will be register now. Since the last link will be a button, we will assign it the button class instead of the nav link class, and also add the nav button class to give it a slightly different style from the rest. Next, after the nav list, create a div tag with the class nav close. Here we will add an icon. Head over to Remix icon. Search for close. Click on the icon, copy it, and paste it here. Then, after the nav menu, create a div tag with the class nav toggle. This will be our third child element. Here, we will add a toggle icon. Go to Remix icon. Search for menu. Click on the icon, copy it, and paste it here. Now let's move on to the CSS file. I have imported Google fonts here, and the fonts we are going to use are Space, Grotesque, and Zen Dots. Let me show you how to get the link. Open a browser and search for Google Fonts. Search for Space Grotesque. And click on Get Font. Go back and search for Zen Dots. Then click on Get Font again. Click on Get Embed Code and then select Import. Copy the link and paste it into your CSS file. Then, I have created CSS variables. First, we have variables for colors. The benefit of using these variables is that if you want to change a color later, you don't need to go through the entire CSS file to update it everywhere it's used. Instead, you can change it here, and it will automatically update throughout the website. Next, we have variables for font family. You will find these values here. Then, we have variables for font sizes. The benefit of storing font sizes in variables is that when we make the website responsive, we won't need to search for selectors to change their values. Instead, we can simply change the values of these variables. After that, we have variables for font weights. After that, we have some base styling. We have a universal selector where we set the margin and padding to 0 to remove the default spacing from all the elements. Next, we set box sizing to border box to ensure that padding and borders are included within an element's total width and height. Next, we have defined some styling in the body selector that will be applied to every element. You can see that we have also selected the button and input elements because this styling will not be applied to them. Then we applied a background color to the body. After that, we set the color, font family, and font weight for the headings. Since all the headings share these same properties, I styled them here to avoid repeating the same properties multiple times. Next, we set list style to none to remove the default bullet points. Then we set text decoration to none for all anchor tags to remove the default underline. After that, we set the line height to 150% for all paragraphs. Next, we set a max width of 100% for all images to ensure they scale responsively within their container. We also set Display to Block, which removes extra space below the image that is typically caused by it being an inline element. Finally, we set Outline and Border to None for button and input elements because, by default, these elements have outline and border that we don't want. We also set background color to Transparent. Now, come over here and select the header class. First, set its background color to Container Color. Next, set its position to Fixed, so it stays in place while scrolling. Then set Top to 0. Set Left to 0 as well. After applying Position Fixed, you can see that it doesn't occupy 100% of the viewport width. Now go ahead and set its width to 100%. Finally, set its z-index to 1000 to ensure it stays on top of everything. Next, we will align the logo, links, and toggle icon in a row. For that, select the Nav class. First, set Display to Flex. Then set Align Items to Center to align them vertically. To align the links, we will use the same properties, so select the Nav List class as well here. Then select the Nav class again. Here first, set Justify Content to Space Between. Then set its height to 5.5 rem. After that, let's make the nav bar width smaller. Come over here and select the Container class. First, give it a background color. Next, set max width to 1124 pixels. Then set margin inline to auto to center it horizontally. After that, set padding inline to 1.25 rem to add space on the left and right. Now, remove the background color. Now let's style the logo. Since both the nav logo and footer logo will have the same styling, we will style it here. Select the main logo class. First, set Display to Flex. Next, set Align Items to Center. Then give it a column gap of 0.5 rem. Also, change its color to title color. After that, set font family to second font. Finally, change its font size to H3 font size. Now select the main logo image class and set its width to 20 pixels. Next, we will change the color of the links, close icon and toggle icon. So come over here and select the navlink class. And also select the navclose and navtoggle classes. Then, change their color to title color. Now let's add some space between the links. For that, select the navlist class. And set column gap to 4 rem. After that, we will add a hover effect to the links. But before that, select the navlink class. Then add a transition to the color with a duration of 0.3 seconds. Now we will add a hover effect. When the link is hovered, we will change color to first color. Next, we will style the button. Come over here and select the button class. First, set display to inline block. Next, set background color to first color. Then, give it a padding of 1.25 rem for the top and bottom, and 2 rem for the left and right. Also, change its color to title color black. After that, set font weight to font semi-bold. Finally, add a transition to the background with a duration of 0.3 seconds. When the button is hovered, we will change its background color to first color dark. If you notice, the button in the nav bar has a different background color from the others. Come over here and select the nav button class. And change its background color to title color. Then, select the nav toggle class. And also select the nav close class. And set display to none, because we don't need them on large screens. Now that we have completed the navbar section, let's move on to the next section, the home section. But before that, set header background color to transparent. Now, inside the main tag, create a section tag with the class Home. Also, give it the class section to add some space at the top. We will use this class in every section of the website. Inside the Home, create a div tag with the class Home container. Add the class container to make the width of the Home section smaller and keep it centered. Additionally, add the class grid to turn Home container into a grid container. Inside the Home container, we will add two child elements. The first will contain the text content, and the second will hold an image. Let's create a div tag with the class home data, which will be the first child element. Inside the home data, first add a h2 tag with the class home subtitle. And its text will be Keep Your. Next, add a h1 tag with the class home title. And its text will be Body Fit and Strong. Then, create a p tag with the class description. After that, create an anchor tag with the class button, not a button tag, because we want the user to navigate to another section when they click on it. Also add the class button flex to align the text and icon. Inside the button, first add the button text, Get Started. And then add the button icon. Go to Remix Icon. Search for arrow. Click on the icon, copy it, and paste it here. Now, after the home data, create an img tag with the class home image, which will be our second child element. Inside the source attribute, we will add our image path. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the section class. And set padding top to 8 rem. Next, move to the Layout section and select the Grid class. Then set Display to Grid. After that, select the Home Container class and give it a Grid Template Columns property. The first column's width will be 7fr and the second column's width will be 5fr. This means the home container width is divided into 12 parts, where the first column occupies 7 parts and the second column occupies 5 parts, and we are styling it here because Calculate Container will also have the same column sizes. Now, move to the Home section and select the Home Container class again. And set padding top to 2 rem because we need little more space. As you can see, the text content is starting a little bit below the image. Select the Home Data class. and set padding top to 4 rem. After that, select the Home Subtitle class. First, change its color to first color. Then set font size to H1 font size. After the Home Subtitle, select the Home Title class and change its font size to big font size. Then set margin block to 0.75 rem and 1.5 rem. Margin block is the shorthand for margin top and margin bottom. Next, we will style the description class, and we will do this in the Reusable CSS Classes section. Select the description class. First, set its max width to 460 pixels. Then set margin bottom to 3 rem. After that, select the Button Flex class. First, set display to inline flex. Next, set align items to center. Then set column gap to 0.5 rem. Now, select the icon that is inside the button and change its font size to 1.25 rem. Then add a transition to the transform with a duration of 0.3 seconds. When the button flex is hovered, we will move the icon horizontally by 0.25 rem. Now that we have completed the Home section, let's move on to the next section, the Logos section. For the Logos section, create a section tag with the class logos. Then add the class container to make the width of the Logos section smaller and keep it centered. Inside the logos, create a div tag with the class logos container. Also, add the class grid to turn logos container into a grid container. Inside the logos container, we will add logo images. Now, let's add the first image. For that, create an img tag with the class logo image. Inside the source attribute, we will add our image path. Next, copy the img tag and paste it 3 times. Then change the names of these images. Now, let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the Logos class. Then set padding block to 3.5 rem and 1 rem. Next, select the Logos Container class and give it a Grid Template Columns property. Since we need 4 columns of equal width, we will use repeat function here. The number of columns we need is 4, and their width will be 1 fr, meaning the column will share the available space equally. Now let's move this to the Layout section. Instead of directly passing the number of columns, we will use a variable named column. This allows us to change the number of columns easily. For example, in the Choose section, we have 2 columns of equal width, so we will change the value of the column variable to 2. This way, we won't need to repeat this property each time. Now let's create this variable. Since we need 4 columns, the value of the variable will be 4. Then set gap to 2 rem. Finally, set Justify Items to Center. After that, let's reduce the size of the logos. For that, select the Logo Image class and set width to 190 pixels. Now let's proceed to the next section, Choose Us. Come over here, create a section tag with the class Choose. Also, give it the class section to add some space at the top. Inside the Choose section, create a div tag with the class Choose container. Add the class container to make the width of the Choose section smaller and keep it centered. Also, add the class grid to turn Choose container into a grid container. Inside the Choose container, we will add 2 child elements. The first will hold an image and timing, and second will contain the text content. Now let's create a div tag with the class Choose group, which will be the first child element. Inside the Choose group, start by adding an img tag with the class Choose image. Inside the source attribute, we will add our image path. Next, add a div tag with the class Choose timing. Inside the Choose timing, add a h3 tag with the class Choose timing title. And its text will be opening hours. After that, create a p tag with the class Choose time. After the Choose group, create a div tag with the class Choose content. This will be our second child element. Inside the Choose content, first add a h1 tag with the class section title. And its text will be Why Choose Us? Now create a custom attribute called Data Title, and here we will add the text that appears above the section title. The text will be Best Reason. Next, create a p tag with the class description. Then copy its text and paste it here. After that, we will add stats. For that, create a div tag with the class Choose Data. Also, add the class grid to turn it into a grid container. Now let's add the first item. For that, create a div tag with the class Choose Data item. Inside the Choose Data item, add a h3 tag with the class Choose Number. After that, create a p tag with the class Choose Data subtitle. Now copy the Choose Data item and paste it 3 times. Now let's add the data to each item. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the Choose Container class. Also select the Choose Data class. Select the Choose Container class again. And set Align Items to Center. Then set Column Gap to 8 rem. Come over here and select the Choose Container and choose Data Classes. Since we need 2 columns, the value of the variable will be 2. Next, select the class Choose Timing. Then set its background color to first color. After that, give it a padding of 1.5 rem. Then select the Choose Timing title class. Also select the Choose Time class. First, change their color to Title Color Black. Then set text Align to Center. After that, select the Choose Timing title class again. And change its font size to H3 font size. Then set margin bottom to 0.5 rem. Now let's move to the Reusable CSS Classes section and style the section title. Select the section title class. First, set its font size to H1 font size. Then, set margin bottom to 2 rem. Now, let's add the text that appears above the section title. For that, we will use the Before pseudo element. First, give it a content property. And inside this function, we will pass the data title attribute. Next, set display to block. Also, change its color to first color. Then set font size to H3 font size. After that, set transform to rotate -2 degree. Finally, set margin bottom to 0.75 rem. Select the Choose Data class. Then set row gap to 2.5 rem. After that, select the Choose Number class. And set its font size to H2 font size. Then, set margin bottom to 0.25 rem. Finally, select the Choose Data Subtitle class. and change its font size to small font size. Now that we have completed the Choose section, let's move on to the next section, the Program section. Come over here, create a section tag with the class program. Then add the class container to make the width of the program section smaller and keep it centered. Also give it the class section to add some space at the top. Inside the program section, first, we will add the section title. For that, copy the Choose section title and paste it here. Now change the text inside it. The data title text will be Our Program. Also give it the class title center to center it horizontally. After that, create a div tag with the class program container. Now let's create these cards. Go ahead and create an article tag with the class program card. Inside the program card, first add a span tag with the class program number. Next, add a H3 tag with the class program title. Then create a P tag with the class program description. Now copy the program card and paste it 2 times. Now let's add the data for each card. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the program container class. Then set display to flex. After that, set gap to 1.5 rem. Also set padding top to 4 rem. Here, you can see that the width of the cards is not equal. Now let's go back to the CSS file and select the Program Card class. And give it a flex property. This is the shorthand for flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis. Now set flex grow to 1, flex shrink to 1, and flex basis to 0, meaning the element's size will be entirely determined by flex grow, and all elements will take equal widths within the container. Now set the minimum width of the card to 305 pixels. This means that if the card's width becomes smaller than 305 pixels, it will move to a new row. Go to their parent element and set flex wrap to wrap, so that the cards move to a new row when there is no more space for them to shrink. Because of flex grow, the cards are taking up the available space. So now let's set their maximum width. Go ahead and set max width using cals, since we need to perform some calculations. Here we will subtract 1 rem from 33.33%. Let me explain how I got these values. Since we have 3 cards in one row, I divided 100% by 3, which gives us 33.33%. The total gap between the cards is 3 rem, 1.5 rem between the first and second card, and 1.5 rem between the second and third card. I divided 3 rem by 3, the total number of cards, which gives us 1 rem. We then subtract this value from the max width because within the 100% container width, we also need to account for the gaps. Now let's horizontally center these cards. Go to their parent element and set Justify Content to Center. Now let's move these styles to the Layout section because we will use the same styling for the Pricing section as well. Instead of directly setting the minimum width, we will use a variable named minWidth. This way, we can change its value for the pricing card without repeating the property. The value of the variable will be 305 pixels. Next, set its background color to container color. Then, set padding to 2 rem. Next, select the program number class. Then change its font family to second font. After that, set font size to H1 font size. Finally, change its color to first color. Then select the program title class. Now set font size to H3 font size. Then set margin block to 1 rem. After that, we will add hover effect to the card. When the program card is hovered, we will change its background color to first color. We also need to change the color of program number, program title, and program description. When the program card is hovered, here we will use isPseudo class because it allows us to apply the same styles to multiple elements without repeating the selectors. Now, select the class's program number, program title, and program description. Then, change their color to title color black. Come over here and add transition to the background with a duration of 0.3 seconds. Now select the class's program number, program title, and program description. Then add transition to the color with a duration of 0.3 seconds. Now let's center the section title. Come over here and select the Title Center class. And set text align to center. Now let's proceed to the next section, Pricing. Create a section tag with the class Pricing. Then, add the class container to make the width of the pricing section smaller and keep it centered. Also, give it the class section to add some space at the top. Inside the pricing section, first, we will add the section title. For that, copy the program section title and paste it here. Now change the text inside it. And the data title text will be Pricing. After that, create a div tag with the class Pricing container. Now let's create these cards. Go ahead and create an article tag with the class pricing card. Inside the pricing card first, add a H1 tag with the class pricing title. Next, add a H2 tag with the class pricing number. Then, create an unordered list with the class pricing list. Inside the pricing list, create a LI tag with the class pricing item. Which will contain this icon and text. Inside the pricing item, first add the icon. Go to Remix icon and search for checkbox. Click on the icon, copy it, and paste it here, and then add the text. Now copy the pricing item and paste it 5 times. Then, change the text for each item. After that, copy the Home button. And paste it here. Also, give it the class pricing button. Now, change its text to Purchase Now. Now copy the pricing card and paste it 2 times. Now let's add the data for each card. Also add the class pricing card active to the second card. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the Pricing Container class. Then here, select the Pricing Card class. Now select the Pricing Card class again. First, set the value of the variable to 325 pixels. After that, set background color to container color. Finally, give it a padding of 2 rem for the top and bottom and 3 rem for the left and right. Next, select the Pricing Title class. Then set its font size to H3 font size. After that, set margin bottom to 1 rem. Then select the Pricing Number class and set its font size to H2 font size. After that, select the Pricing List class. Then set margin block to 2.5 rem. Now select the Pricing Item class. First, set Display to Flex. Then, set Align Items to Center. After that, set Column Gap to 0.5 rem. Finally, set Margin Bottom to 1 rem. After that, select the icon that is inside the pricing item. First, change its color to first color. After that, set font size to 1.25 rem. Then select the Pricing Button class. And when the Pricing button is hovered, change background color to title color. Now select the Pricing Button class and set Display to Flex. This will make it take the full width. Come over here and set Justify Content to Center. Now let's apply styles to the active card. For that, select the class pricing card active and change its background color to first color. After that, select the class's pricing title. Pricing number. Pricing item and icon that is inside the pricing item. Then, change their color to title color black. Now that we have completed the pricing section, let's move on to the next section, the Calculate BMI section. Come over here, create a section tag with the class Calculate. Also, give it the class section to add some space at the top. Inside the Calculate section, create a div tag with the class Calculate container. Add the class container to make the width of the Calculate section smaller and keep it centered. Also, add the class grid to turn Calculate container into a grid container. Inside the Calculate container, we will add two child elements. The first will contain the text content and inputs, and the second will hold an image. Now let's create a div tag with the class Calculate content, which will be the first child element. Inside the Calculate content, first, we will add the section title. For that, copy the Choose section title. And paste it here. Now change the text inside it. And the data title text will be BMI Calculator. Next, create a p tag with the class description. Then copy its text and paste it here. After that, create a form tag with the class Calculate form. Also add the class grid. Then create a div tag with the class Calculate box for the first input. Inside the Calculate box, add an input tag with the class Calculate input. Set its type to number and its placeholder to height. Then, create a label tag with the class Calculate label. And its text will be centimeter. Now copy the Calculate box and paste it once. Then change its placeholder to weight. And set the label text to kg. After that, copy the Home button. Then, replace the anchor tag with the button tag. And set its type to Submit. At the end, create a p tag with the class Calculate message. Which will contain this message. After the Calculate content, create a div tag with the class Calculate images. This will be our second child element. For the circle behind the image, we will use before pseudo element instead of creating a separate element. Now add an img tag with the class Calculate image. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the Calculate container class. Also, select it here. Then here, select the class Calculate form. Now, move to the Calculate section. And select the Calculate form class. Since we need 2 columns, the value of the column variable will be 2. Then set gap to 1 rem. Next, select the Calculate box class. Set its position to relative. This ensures that when we position the label, it will be positioned relative to the Calculate box. After that, set border to 2 pixels solid. And use text color for its color. Then select the Calculate input class. First, set its width to 100%. Then give it a padding of 1.25 rem for the top, 3.5 rem for the right. 1.25 rem for the bottom and 1.5 rem for the left. After that, select the Calculate Label class. First, set its position to absolute. Then set right to 1.5 rem. And top to 1.25 rem. Also change its color to title color. Now select the button that is inside the Calculate form. And set grid column to span from 1 to 3. Now go to where we styled the button and set cursor to pointer. Now let's remove spin buttons. Select the Calculate Input class. This is a pseudo element used to style the outer spin button. Also, select the inner spin button. Then set WebKit appearance to none. Now let's remove them in Firefox. Select the input elements whose type is number. And set Moz appearance to text field. Now select the Calculate Message class. First, set its position to absolute. Then set Transform to translate Y 1 rem. After that, select the Calculate Images class. First, set its background color. Then set border radius. Top left value will be 0. Top right value will be 0 as well. Bottom right value will be 100 viewport width, and bottom left value will be 100 viewport width. After that, set its position to relative. Now let's create the circle. For that, we will use before pseudo element. First, give it a content property. Then, set position to absolute. To set the left, right, and bottom values, we will use shorthand. Top will be auto, left and right will be 0, and bottom will also be 0. We set left and right to 0. This way, it will take the full width. After that, set aspect ratio to 1:1. This way, it will have the same height as the width. Now set border radius to 50%. Finally, give it a background color of first color. Now let's bring the image forward. Select the Calculate Image class. And set z-index to 10. Z-index doesn't work unless the element's position property is set. Come over here and set position to relative. Next, we will set width of the image using the clamp function. Search for clamp generator. Here, we need to set the minimum viewport width. Once this viewport is reached, the width will stop shrinking. Next, we need to set the maximum viewport width. When the screen size becomes larger than this, the width will stop growing. Now specify the minimum width of image in rem. Then provide the maximum size in rem. Now copy this line and paste it here, then change font size to width. Now let's center the image. Move to its parent element. And set display to flex. Then set justify content to center the image horizontally. Finally, set overflow to hidden. Now let's remove the background color. Now let's add the BMI calculation functionality. Open a JavaScript file. First, create a variable named CalculateForm to store the element with the ID CalculateForm. Next, create a variable named CalculateCentimeter to store the input field with the ID CalculateCentimeter. Then, create a variable named CalculateKG to store the input field with the ID CalculateKG. After that, create a variable named CalculateMessage to get the element with the ID CalculateMessage. Now let's add these IDs in the HTML. Now create a function called Calculate BMI. Pass E here as a parameter to access the event object. When a form is submitted, the page reloads. E.prevent default stops this from happening. Now check if either of the input fields is empty. Dot value is a property used to access the value entered in an input field. Or operator means the condition is true if either of the two inputs is empty. First, we will add the class color red to calculate message. Now let's style this class in CSS. Next, set the text content of the Calculate message element to display a message. Now using setTimeout, we will clear the text content of the Calculate message element after a delay of 3 seconds. In the else part, we will calculate BMI. Create a variable named centimeter to store the value from the Calculate centimeter input field. Then, divide the value by 100 to convert the height to meters, which is required for the BMI formula. Next, create a variable named kg to store the value from the Calculate kg input field. After that, create a variable named BMI. The formula to calculate BMI is the weight in kg divided by the height in meters squared. Now using the math.round function rounds the BMI result to the nearest whole number for easier readability. Now we will check if BMI is less than 18.5. If it is, we will display a message indicating that the person is skinny. To show the BMI value along with the message, you can include the BMI variable in the text content. Now we will check if BMI is less than 25, meaning the BMI is between 18.5 and 24.9. If it is, we will display a message indicating that the person is healthy. In the else statement means the BMI is 25 or more. We will display a message indicating that the person is overweight. To change the color of message, add the class color first. Now let's style this class in CSS. Now let's add an event listener to the form. When the form is submitted, we will trigger the Calculate BMI function. Now let's clear the input fields when the form is submitted. Also, let's clear the text content of the calculate message element after a delay of 4 seconds. Come over here and remove the class color first. Now, let's proceed to the next section, Marquee. Come over here, create a section tag with the class Marquee. Also, give it the class section to add some space at the top. Inside the Marquee, create a div tag with the class Marquee BG. After that, create an unordered list with the class Marquee list. Inside the Marquee list, create a li tag with the class Marquee item. Inside the Marquee item, first add the icon. Go to Remix Icon, search for asterisk. Click on the icon, copy it, and paste it here, and then add the text. Now copy the Marquee item and paste it 3 times. Then change the text for each item. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the Marquee BG class. First, set background color to first color. Then set padding block to 1.75 rem. Now select the Marquee List class. Also select the Marquee Item class and set Display to Flex. After that, set column gap to 1.75 rem. After that, select the Marquee item class. First, set Align Items to Center. Then, change its color to Title Color Black. After that, set Font Family to Second Font. Finally, set Font Size to H2 Font Size. Now select the Marquee List class. And set Flex Shrink to 0. Flex Shrink is a property for Flex container children, so come over here and set the parent element, Display to Flex. Also, set Overflow to Hidden. Now select the icon that is inside the marquee item. Then set font size to 1.25 rem. Now, let's create the animation. The animation name will be Marquee. The duration will be 18 seconds, the timing function will be linear, and the iteration count will be infinite. Let's define the animation. But there are two issues. First, an empty space appears at the end of each cycle, and second, the animation ends abruptly. Let's address these issues. To create an endless loop for the animation, we can use a simple technique, duplicating the items. Copy the marquee list and paste it once. Also, set ARIA hidden to true to hide any repeated content from screen readers. Now, when one list scrolls off the screen, it is seamlessly replaced by a duplicate, creating a continuous and uninterrupted scrolling effect. Now let's add gap between lists. Select the Marquee BG class here. If you notice, as soon as the second list reaches the starting point, it is abruptly replaced by the first element. The reason for this sudden jump is the gap property we are using inside the Marquee BG. By using the cols function, include the gap value in the calculation. It will work as expected. Instead of directly subtracting the gap value, we will use a variable named gap. Now let's create this variable. And set its value to 1.75 rem. We will use the variable here as well. This way our code will be more organized and it will be easier to update the gap property. Now let's proceed to the next section, footer. Come over here, create a footer tag with the class footer. Add the class container to make the width of the footer section smaller and keep it centered. Also give it the class section to add some space at the top. Inside the footer, create a div tag with the class footer container. Also, add the class grid to turn footer container into a grid container. Inside the footer container, we will add two child elements. The first will include the text content and inputs, while the second will contain the titles and links. Now let's create a div tag, which will be the first child element. Now copy the logo. And paste it here. Also, add the class footer logo to it. Next, create a p tag with the class footer description. Then, copy its text and paste it here. After that, create a form tag with the class footer form. Inside the footer form, add an input tag with the class footer input. Set its type to email and its placeholder to your email. Then, create a button tag with the class button. Set its type to submit. And its text will be subscribe. Now create a div tag with the class footer content. This will be our second child element. Inside the footer content, we will add three child elements, each containing a title and links. Now, create a div tag. Inside this div, create a h3 tag with the class footer title. Next, create an unordered list with the class footer links. Inside the footer links, add a li tag. Inside this li, create an anchor tag with the class footer link. Now copy the LI and paste it 2 times. Next, copy this div and paste it twice. Now, let's add the data. Now, after the footer container, create a div tag with the class footer group. Here, we will add the copyright text and social icons. First, let's add the copyright text. Create a span tag with the class footer copy. Then, copy its text and paste it here. After that, create a div tag with the class footer social. Then create an anchor tag with the class footer social link. Then set the target attribute to blank. This will open the link in a new tab. Now let's add the icon. go to Remix icon and search for Facebook. Click on the icon, copy it, and paste it here. Now copy the anchor tag and paste it twice. Then change their icons. This time, search for Twitter. Click on the icon, copy it, and replace the icon. Now search for LinkedIn. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the footer class and set padding bottom to 3 rem. Next, select the footer container class and also select the footer content class and give them a grid template columns property. Instead of directly passing the number of columns, we will use a variable named column. And their width will be max content. Now select the footer container class Since we need 2 columns, value of the variable will be 2. After that, set justify content to space between. Then select the footer content class. Here, set the column value to 3. Then set column gap to 5 rem. Now select the footer logo class and set margin bottom to 1.5 rem. Next, select the footer description class and set margin bottom to 2 rem. Then, select the footer form class and also select the footer social class. Then, set display to flex. Now select the footer form class and set gap to 1.25 rem. After that, select the footer input class. Then, give it a padding of 1.25 rem for the top, 3.5 rem for the right, 1.5 rem for the bottom, and 1.5 rem for the left. After that, set border to 2 pixels solid and use text color for its color. Now select the footer title class. Then set font size to H3 font size. After that, set margin bottom to 1.5 rem. Next, select the LI inside footer links, but do not select the last child. And set margin bottom to 0.75 rem. Then, select the footer link class. And change its color to text color. Then, add a transition to the color with a duration of 0.3 seconds. When the footer link is hovered, change its color to first color. After that, select the footer group class. First, set display to flex. Then, set align items to center. After that, set justify content to space between. Finally, set margin top to 7 rem. Then, select the footer copy class and set font size to small font size. Now select the footer socials class. And set column gap to 1.25 rem. After that, select the footer social link class. First, set display to inline flex. Next, set padding to 0.35 rem. Also set background color to first color. Then set border radius to 50%. After that, set font size to 1.25 rem. Also change its color to title color black. Finally, add a transition to the background with a duration of 0.3 seconds. When the footer social link is hovered, we will change its background color to first color dark. Now let's create the scroll up feature. Come over here, create an anchor tag with the class scroll up. Inside this, we will add an icon. Now let's move on to the CSS file. Come over here and select the scroll up class. First, set its position to fixed. Then it'll set right to 3rem. Bottom to 3rem as well. Next, set background color to first color. After that, set display to inline flex. Next, set padding to 0.35 rem. Also, change its color to title color black. Then, set font size to 1.25 rem. After that, set z-index to 100. Finally, add a transition with a duration of 0.3 seconds. When the scroll up is hovered. We will change its background color to first color dark. We will also move it vertically by negative 0.25 rem. Come over here and set bottom to negative 30%. In the Show Scroll class, we will set bottom to 3 rem. Now let's add this class using JavaScript. Create a function called scrollUp. Inside the function, first, create a variable named scrollUp to store the element with the ID scrollUp. Now let's add this ID in the HTML. Now we will check if the scroll position is greater than or equal to 350. If it is, we will add the class showScroll to the element with the ID scrollUp. If it is less than 350, we will remove the showScroll class. Now, let's add a scroll event listener to the window. And trigger the scroll-up function when scrolling occurs. Now we will change the header background as we scroll. Now copy this code. And paste it here. First, change the name of the function to scrollHeader. Also update it here. Then change the variable name to header. And the element we select will have the ID header. Now let's add this ID in the HTML. When the scroll is greater than 50 viewport height. The class we will add and remove will be BGHeader. Now let's style the BGHeader class. Come over here and select the BGHeader class. First, change its background color to body color. Then, set box shadow. Now let's add a transition to the background with a duration of 0.3 seconds. Now let's create the Active Link feature. First, create a variable named Sections. Here, we will select all the section elements that have an ID attribute. Now let's add IDs to the sections. We will add an ID to the sections that have a link in the navbar. Now inside the href, specify the ID of the section you want to scroll to when the link is clicked. Now, let's add smooth scrolling. Select the HTML element and set scroll behavior to smooth. Now declare a function named scrollActive, which will be called when the page is scrolled. It will check the scroll position and update the active navigation link. Inside the function, create a variable named scrollY, which will hold the vertical scroll position, how far the user has scrolled down the page. Window.PageY_offset returns the distance of the document from the top of the viewport. Now iterate over each section to check its position relative to the scroll position. First, create a variable named section height. Which will store the height of the current section. Next, create a variable named section top to store the vertical offset of the section from the top of the document. Then, create a variable named Section ID and get the ID attribute of the section, which is used to identify the section being viewed. After that, create a variable named Section class and select the navigation link in the nav menu whose href attribute matches the section's ID. Now we will check whether the user's scroll position is within the bounds of the current section. If scroll Y is greater than section top, it means the top of the section is now below or at the current scroll position. Essentially, this checks if the top of the section has been reached or passed. If scroll Y is less than or equal to this value, it means the user is still within the bounds of the section. This gives the point where the section ends. If the scroll position is within the section, we will add the active link class to the corresponding navigation link to highlight the active section. If the scroll position is not within the bounds of the section, we will remove the active link class from the navigation link. Now, let's add a scroll event listener to the window. And trigger the scroll active function when scrolling occurs. Here, you can see that we have reached the Choose section, but the link is not becoming active. Let's understand why this is happening. Imagine a section that starts 500 pixels from the top of the page, but there is a fixed header that is 58 pixels tall. In reality, the section doesn't become fully visible until it's 58 pixels lower on the page, because the header is covering it. I'm not going to calculate the header height dynamically. I will simply subtract 58 from the section's top offset. If you notice when we reload the page, the home link doesn't remain active. This happens because the function is triggered only on scroll. Come over here and add the class active link to home link. Now let's create this scroll-based animation. For that, we will use the Scroll Reveal library. Now click on the guide. Copy this link. And paste it here. Now let's move to the JavaScript file. Inside this Scroll Reveal instance, we will set properties that will be used multiple times. Using the origin property, we specify the direction from which the element will appear. In the distance property, we define how far the element will move during the animation. The duration property controls how long the animation lasts. The delay property sets a delay before the animation starts. .reveal is a method of the Scroll Reveal instance that applies the defined animation settings to the specified elements. Here, we need to add the element we want to target. In the second argument, we can define properties for the specific element. These properties also override the default settings. The interval property sets a delay between the animations of consecutive elements when revealing multiple elements. Now let's style the scroll bar. After that, let's make the website responsive. This overflow problem is caused by scroll reveal. Come over here and select the main class and set overflow to hidden. Everything here is looking fine. The gap here is too large. Let's decrease it. Select the class, choose Container, and set column gap to 4rem. The styles written in this media query will apply only when the screen width is 1200 pixels or less. Also decrease this gap. Come over here and select the class Calculate Container. Now let's decrease the gap between these links. Select the Footer Content class. And set column gap to 3.5 rem. Now select the Scroll Up class and set right to 1 rem. Now let's first decrease the navbar height. Select the nav class and set height to 3.5 rem. Now let's reduce the font sizes. Next, let's style the nav menu. Come over here and select the nav menu class. First, set its position to fixed. Next, set top to 0. Set right to 0 as well. Then set border left to 2 pixels solid. And set border color to text color. Also, give it a background color. After that, set its width to 50% and height to 100%. Finally, set backdrop filter to blur 32 pixels. Now let's change the direction of the links to column. Select the NavList class. First, set flex direction to column. Then set align items to flex start. After that, set row gap to 2.5 rem. Finally, give it a padding of 5 rem for the top, 0 for the right, 0 for the bottom, and 3 rem for the left. After that, select the class nav close. Then, set display to inline flex. After that, set cursor to pointer. Here, select the class nav toggle as well. Now select the nav close class. First, set font size to 1.5 rem. Then, set position to absolute. After that, set top to 1 rem. And right to 1.5 rem. Come over here and set right to negative 100% to position the menu off screen initially. Now let's make the size of the toggle icon slightly larger. Select the nav toggle class. Then set font size to 1.25 rem. Next, let's reduce the top distance for each section. Select the section class and set padding top to 6 rem. Now let's reduce the size of the home image. Select the Home Image class and set width to 320 pixels. After that, set margin inline to auto to center it horizontally. We also need to reduce the size of the logos. Select the class logo image and set width to 120 pixels. After that, select the class Choose Container. Then set column gap to 2.5 rem. Next, select the Choose Timing class and change its padding to 1 rem. Now select the class Program Container and change padding top to 1 rem. Now let's arrange the text content and image in a single column. Come over here and select the Home Container class. And set Grid Template Columns to 1FR. After that, set row gap to 3 rem. If you notice, the gap from the top has increased because we set the padding top on Home Data class. Now, let's set it to 0. Next, we will align the text content to the center. Now select the description class. Then set Margin Inline to Auto to center it horizontally. Next, let's arrange the logos into 2 columns. Select the Logos Container class and set the value of column variable to 2. Since we need the text content first. Select the Choose Group class and set its order to 1. Now let's center the text content. We also need to reduce the size of the calculate group. Come over here and set maximum width to 320 pixels. For now, ignore the width property. You will understand it better why we set it to 100% when we resize the calculate image. Now let's reduce the size of form. Select the Calculate Form class. Then set maximum width to 505 pixels. After that, set Grid Template Columns to 1FR. Now select the Calculate Images class and set maximum width to 320 pixels. Here, you can see that it's not taking the maximum width we set, so we need to set its width to 100%. Now let's implement the Show Menu functionality when the toggle icon is clicked. First, create a variable named navMenu to store the element with the ID navMenu. Next, create a variable navToggle to store the element with the ID navToggle. Then, create a variable navClose to store the element with the ID navClose. Now let's add these IDs in the HTML. Now let's add a click event to the nav toggle. When the nav toggle is clicked, we will run a function that adds the Show Menu class to the nav menu. Now let's style this class in CSS. Select the Class Show menu and set right to 0. Initially, we set the right property to -100%. And when the nav close is clicked, we will remove the Show Menu class. To ensure smooth movement, add a transition property to the nav menu. Next, let's implement the Close Menu functionality when any link is clicked. Come over here and create a variable named navLink. This variable will store all anchor elements that have the navLink class. After that, create a function called linkAction. Inside the function, create a variable named navMenu to store the element with the ID navMenu. Now let's remove the showMenu class. Now iterate through each navLink. When a link is clicked, we will run the linkAction function, which removes the showMenu class.